evening and welcome to a very special Delta Insight on HST. I'm Kelli Corscadden, and tonight we're going to be talking about the harmonized sales tax and all the issues surrounding it. In the fall of last year, the provincial government announced their plan to eliminate the 7% GST in favor of the 7% value-added tax and merge it with the 5% GST to create the 12% harmonized tax. And it's become quite a controversial issue, and a lot of the against the HST campaign has been due to one of our guests here, Mr. Bill Vander. Thank you very much for being with us.
Pleasure, thank you.
Former Premier, and you've now become the face of the anti-HST campaign, I'd say. And I know you didn't have to come far tonight, but thank you for making time in your schedule.
Thank you.
And to speak to the benefits, the economic benefits of the HST with us, we have Dr. Roslyn Kunin. Thank you too for coming.
Glad to be here.
Dr. Roslyn Kunin, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you are an economist and former director of the Business Development Bank of Canada and former chairperson of WorkSafe, among other accolades.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, first of all, I want to start off with you, Mr. Vander Zalm. Very recently this week, we heard that the anti-HST campaign gained their goal in Gordon Campbell's riding of Vancouver Point Grey. Where are you at with the rest of the campaign?
Actually, we're basically complete as of today. We have 85 constituencies and we have reached the objective, the objective of Elections BC. They want 10% of the registered voters to sign the petition in order for us to qualify. We're targeting 15%. So we've reached the 10% in every place. In some places, particularly those near the Alberta border and the Liberal ridings, we have reached far greater numbers. We're up as high as 35–40%. In Boundary Similkameen, for example, we're close to 40%. In Delta South, we're doing extremely well. As a matter of fact, I went grocery shopping today, made the mistake of taking the clipboard with me and walking into the store like this. And instead of it being a 15-minute shopping experience, I ended up spending over an hour, but people were lining up to sign. So we're still going on. We want to get the numbers as high as possible so there's no mistake and the government knows what it is that people don't want. 80–90% of the people are opposed. I think we're proving it. This is a referendum, and the government should listen. If not, I think they're politically gone.
The support for the anti-HST fight has been quite considerable for any petition campaign. Now, Dr. Kunin, how does the timing of the HST announcement come into play? There's certainly a sense of betrayal, perhaps, with the proximity of the announcement to the elections. Do you think that people understand the economic implications of the tax, or are they signing the petition with the motivation of that sense of betrayal in their thoughts?
Well, basically, I think most people have no idea of the economic implications of the HST. Otherwise, they would not be signing the petition. I think there has been a lot of misinformation. There has been some unhappiness with the approach of the government. Betrayal is way too strong a word because essentially the HST was barely mentioned. It wasn't as if it was an issue in the campaign or prior to, and people went around waving banners, or you didn't find headlines in the media saying no HST. If it was mentioned at all, it was en passant. And I really wonder, because I too see lots of people in grocery stores and elsewhere lining up to sign the petition, and I'm a rather small person, so I don't generally go up to them and say, hey, do you know what you're signing? Do you or anyone you know are ever likely to want a job in this province? Do you care about the economy at all? And do you realize the implications of what it's going to cost us if we don't have the HST?
Well,
Can I add to this? Because
briefly, we're certainly going to get into all those topics, but please go ahead.
Because I think the misinformation is coming from the government. Now, mind you, we've had information come to us from the government lately. Before that, we had to go to the federal website and elsewhere to get the information. The government held back the information. Of course, they didn't tell the truth during an election campaign, and that didn't help their cause when they announced it shortly after the election. but also they've been keeping back the information because the idea was to introduce it early, wait for a time to actually implement it, and have people forget. And people tend to forget. Oftentimes that's how governments work, unfortunately. But we were in there, we stopped it, and for anyone to say that the people don't know what it is they're doing, when 90% of the people in this province, if 90% of the people are wrong, they are actually right. 90% of the people cannot be wrong. If 90% of the people are wrong, according to some people, then those people are wrong. 90% of the people cannot be wrong. And a politician sitting in Victoria saying 90% is wrong doesn't deserve to sit there.
Well, certainly it's a complicated issue, the HST, and we're going to get into all of those different aspects tonight. I'm going to ask some questions, but halfway through the show, we'd like to open it up to call in from the viewers of the Delta TV. But just very generally, I think you've stated some of that, but generally, a lot of people are saying, who wants this tax anyway? And is this tax good for BC? What would you say, Ms. Kunin?
I would say it is very, very good for BC. First of all, it is not an additional tax. It is a replacement of a tax that has been very bad for BC, and the reason that there's very few provinces left in Canada and very few countries now that use the kind of compounded sales tax that the PST was, because the PST isn't just 7% when you buy something that you see. The PST is on every level of transaction, and so the initial purchase, you add 7%, that becomes part of the price, 7% compounded on top of that, 7% compounded on top of that, and so on. And finally, you're putting the final 7% on something that is very much higher because the PST has been layered in at every level.
This is the embedded PST.
That's the embedded PST. It's there, you don't see it, it is there in the prices. And the HST has several advantages. First of all, it is not embedded, it will be in effect the GST, we'll call it H because it has both a provincial and federal component now, but it will be taken out at every level. So when the purchaser, the ultimate seller, the retailer, the manufacturer, the producer pays pays HST on the various inputs, then he sells the product or service to you. You pay the HST. Instead of transmitting that whole to the government, as was the case with the PST, the supplier now can deduct all the HST that he has paid. So his costs go down, he is no longer compounded, and the HST will be on a much smaller base than was before.
Let's talk about the PST later. But